the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, Season 4. Let's go, baby. Yeah. There was a time I had trouble talking about it. Congratulate them, we know they doubted. Somehow we made it up out the pit, back against the wall, never quit. Traversing through each obstacle, show a non-believer what's possible. Let nothing they could do stand in between me and my wildest dreams. Let's go. And that come at us could come in between. Life gave me the worst, yet my side grew so green. We've been down in the dirt, been tossed in the trash, but I never strayed from my path. When we're gone, we ain't looking back.
Maybe we were all way too high. Maybe that's our fault.
It's going to be a crazy time, but it's going to be a fun time.
Life is boring if you don't take some chances and do some things outside the box.
Your destination for both some feel-good lifestyle advice and some fantasy football advice. All right. Welcome in, everyone. Draft season is in full swing. Rookie fever. I got a dose of it. I hope you guys got a dose of it today. Welcome to the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, April 20th, 420 edition for anyone out there celebrating today. Welcome in, everyone. We got a special episode of the podcast tonight. I'm joined by my two normal co-hosts here, Nate Polvo and Scott Rainier. We're going to be breaking down the NFL mock draft first round, and we also brought in someone who covers the draft very closely for not just us here at IBT, but also over at Champions Round, Dan Turner. What is up, Daniel?
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's going to be real exciting to talk draft with you fine folks.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, guys. Missed you.
Hey, we'll be together soon. It's almost August.
It is almost August for sure. Almost draft time as well. Nate, you've been pounding the ground over there at Fantasy Pros. You've been writing stuff up. A lot of movement here in the first couple rounds. What is the most exciting thing you think heading into this draft as compared to last year's?
So this is more of quarterbacks are terrible in this draft. They're terrible. I think this is going to be a real defensive and offensive line heavy first round.
Non-sexy first round, yeah.
Yeah, for fantasy, there are going to be a handful of picks that are going to be like, oh, okay. But for the most part, it's going to be bolstering offensive line, corners, secondaries, things like that.
Scott, what do you think, man? Last year we saw a ton of fantasy impact right away from rookies. Jamar Chase and company came in and they made a splash. Najee Harris, Elijah Mitchell, a lot of good running backs as well. You dig a lot into the numbers for us here at IBT, Scott. What is your take on how much impact you see these rookies making here in 2022?
Well, one thing I'm really excited about for this first round especially is I want to see how many receivers go, because there's been lots of talk about wide receivers. And as a fantasy analyst, I sway towards offensive players. I've seen people with as many as 8 going in the first round, down to about 5. So I'm really curious because that's a lot of really good draft capital, which you would expect would turn into some fantasy value right away for wide receivers. That's probably what I'm most excited about from an offensive impact standpoint. Again, the quarterbacks are not fantastic, but I'm going to hold my judgment on the quarterbacks a little bit.
Me too.
I'm a little biased because the Seahawks drafted Russell Wilson in the 3rd and got an F from Mel Kiper. So we don't really know. But on paper, it doesn't look like that strong of a QB class.
Yeah, definitely not as hyped up as last year in 2021. That class, we knew from the day Justin Fields stepped into the collegiate ranks as well as Trevor Lawrence that was going to be a special group. It was. Guys, we have so much to get to tonight. We're going to go through our whole first round mock draft. We're also going to talk some traveling tips at the end as well. Traveling season is among us. Some new CDC guidelines have been, I don't know if you want to call them withdrawal, canceled, whatever you want to say. But so a lot more people are going to be traveling. A lot of people are already traveling. So whether you're getting geared up to head out to Vegas for the draft or some other vacation coming up, we're going to get you set for that. Make sure if you guys are here at the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, if you're listening to the audio version, click that subscribe button on Apple iTunes and or Spotify. We really appreciate it. It is the biggest thing that you can do to support the show. And if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe bell. You're going to know when we go live with fantasy football, fantasy golf, fantasy NASCAR, fantasy UFC, and all the goodness here at IBT. So, guys, let's go ahead and get into it without further ado. The NFL first-round mock draft. A lot of anticipation for it, and we're going to hand things off to none other than Nate Holvote, drafting for the Jacksonville Jaguars with the 101. Nathan.
So, their defense is absolutely terrible. Awful. They need a good edge rusher, defensive end that can stop the run. They're going to go Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. I mean, he's probably the best defensive player in this class on the line. Just makes sense. The need's there. He's talented enough. Done.
Nate, is there any fantasy impact to Trayvon Walker going there? You would think obviously it would improve the defense. Maybe Trevor Lawrence isn't, attempting as many passes in the sophomore year. Is that your thought process?
More than likely. I feel like Doug Peterson's smart enough to kind of tamp that down and give him a chance to succeed. This is a defense that's going to be on the field a fair amount because Lawrence is still going to be making mistakes. If you play IDP, Trayvon Walker's a guy that I'm probably taking in the first round of an IDP rookie draft.
Okay, there you have it. Dan, let's go to you with pick number 2 here. Aidan Hutchinson, he falls. He's been talked about as the consensus 101, but within the last couple weeks, odds have changed. Peter Schrager, he dropped his mock draft earlier today. He also went with Nate and Trayvon Walker here. What does Detroit do at 2 now?
Well, with Hutchinson dropping, I'm running this pick up and picking Aidan Hutchinson. I mean, he's a local guy, started Michigan. He was, he's been the 101 in the real draft for a while now. And it just seems that as we get towards the end of the actual draft that he's kind of dropping a little bit. But, the Detroit has to start building a defensive identity somewhere. And I think, having him lock in that defensive end spot for the next, several years is a great building block to start. So I'm really happy that he dropped to number 2 and I'm picking him there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know that Dan Campbell would run DC down there. He's excited to get Aidan Hutchinson. That's a character guy, he'd say, down there. Scott, want to go to you with a 3rd pick, man. Do we get an offensive player off the board here at 3? Houston Texans, they finally get some draft picks. They kind of got screwed out of a couple years in a row. Here they are, 2022, 103. What you got for us, Scotty?
I do. I will go with an offensive player, but not a fantasy-related offensive player, at least directly, and that's offensive tackle Evan Neal out of Alabama. I think with Houston having a pick at number 13, if they don't trade, then I don't think they can pass up on the best, in my opinion, the best O-lineman in the draft. And they have plenty of other holes, edge rusher, wide receiver, that they have other holes to fill. But offensive lineman of Neal's talent is not going to be there at 13. So yes. I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. My only other consideration here when doing this mock was Thibodeau from Oregon.
And Scott, is there any fantasy impact here for either Davis Mills, who likely will be under center for the Texans in 2022, and or a running back group that we're not sure is solidified just yet?
I mean, I think anytime you take an offensive lineman this high in a draft, that you have to expect that it is going to help the offense function, give the quarterback more time, open up a few more running lanes. I mean, he will be a rookie, but I mean, the Texans have kind of been a laughingstock for a little while, and I think they're going to surprise some people this year, to be honest.
Absolutely. Brandon Cook's back in the building as well on a 2-year deal. Good for Brandon Cooks securing the bag. Good for the Houston Texans finally putting some things together here. I'm going to go with number 4 here, the New York Jets. I'm going to take Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, this was a guy who was coming into the 2022 draft process as the consensus 101 not that long ago. He was a 5-star recruit coming into Oregon. And it's not like he had a bad senior season, 10 sacks this season. But I think it's just a little bit of comes down to recency bias here. He didn't have the huge year that we were expecting in 2021. So Kayvon Thibodeau, I think he goes to the New York Jets, and I think they can compete here as early as 2023. They're going to be a scary unit all the way around.
I think that's a good pick, and I think that's where they'll go if he's there. But they're not going to be scary until 2024.
All right, Nate.
But I like the pick.
What happens in 2024? What happens in 2024?
I think Zach Wilson's a year older. I think that defense has had a year to gel. I think that team has found its identity in 2024, and they're a team that becomes a player in the AFC East, maybe.
All right, we'll see what happens there. Nate, I do want to go to another rebuilding team, not that far from the Jets, sticking there in New Jersey, East Rutherford, New York Giants. They're getting this pick from Chicago, Nate. Where are you going with the 105 here? Lot of rebuilding to do for the New York Giants.
So no one other than Sauce Gardner. The Giants defense is terrible, top to bottom. They have very little to be excited about, and they have no depth at cornerback. They need a playmaker. They need someone who can cover. Because if you look at the NFC East and their schedule and the guys they're consistently facing, if they're going up against CeeDee Lamb every season, they've got to have someone who can cover them if they want to compete in that division. Sauce Gardner is a guy who can become that corner for them. It's just too easy. This is one of their biggest needs.
Well, and there also seems like they're pushing James Bradbury out the door. They don't seem to want to have anything to do with Bradbury, and he's been a solid corner the last few years. So I agree.
It's got to be something about culture. I mean, locker room presence, something like that, because it is weird. But obviously, I mean, I just see Sauce Gardner being the guy that they're going to want with this pick.
Yeah, congratulations to Sauce Gardner getting that back, man, from Cincinnati. You love to hear that story going in the top 5 here. Dan, I want to go to you with the decisive number 6 pick here. Carolina Panthers on the clock. They have not had a franchise quarterback since the man, the myth, the legend, Cameron Newton.
So this is the first, I think, fantasy relevant pick of the draft so far. So everyone knows that Carolina's, front office and coaching staff is in a lot of trouble. So I think they go at quarterback here. I'm going to give them Kenny Pickett from Pitt. I think everyone knows that Sam Darnold is not the answer in Carolina. I think Carolina really likes Pickett. I think he, everyone makes light of the hands issue, and I think that's way overblown. I think he's one of the better QBs in this class, top to bottom. So I think, with the weapons they have there, DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, and the like, he can step right in and find some success there.
Kenny Pickett, man, I was hoping he would fall all the way down to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 20. Dan takes him off the board for the Carolina Panthers, which seems to almost be the consensus now. We saw a lot of Malik Willis a couple weeks ago going in that 106 slot. Now there's some talk about Pickett, might be on the way out there at that pick 6, guys. Let's go ahead and move to pick 107 here. Scott, another pick for the New York Giants. They need this one just as bad.
So if I were the Giants, I would be watching intently as Carolina made this pick and rooting so heavily that they went quarterback. That way, Akeem Ekwonu could fall to number 7. Arguably the 1B, in my opinion, to the Evan Neal 1A offensive lineman in this draft. And, the mock drafts, I've been looking over mock drafts for the last month. I think I've looked at like 35 of them. And I mean, the Panthers, it's about 60% QB, 40% offensive lineman. So I think with the 7th pick, if they don't trade, I mean, the Giants are in a good position with 2 top 10 picks to make a trade. But if they're still picking here and Ekwonu is there, it's a smash.
I can't see the Giants trading out of that spot. They have too many needs.
They need an offensive line. They need an offensive line.
And there are some good offensive linemen in this class.
And I mean, if they could walk out of the first round with Sauce Gardner and Ekwonu, it's pretty solid.
That's a win for the Giants for sure.
Yeah.
And Scott, I think this affects no one more than Saquon Barkley back there. He's a guy I've already been targeting in a lot of leagues this season just because of the ADP. It's fallen because of the injury history here. Do you like Saquon if it is offensive line here at the 7th pick?
Yeah, I mean, an improvement to the offensive line. I still believe in Saquon. I mean, I don't think we're going to see the otherworldly season he had after all these injuries, but I still think he's a really talented running back, and I mean almost franchise level offensive tackle.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
It'd be a big boon for him.
Yep.
All right, guys. Speaking of an offense that also needs to retool here, we have the Atlanta Falcons coming up at the 8th pick, and because he is on the board still, I'm going to have to go Garrett Wilson. I'm going to go with the consensus here out of Ohio State. Garrett Wilson is a player, at first when I sat down and watched his tape, guys, I'll be honest, I was like, man, is this really like the 101 wide receiver? Because he kind of looks like, I don't know, out of control at times, his tape almost makes him look out of control, like a little wobbly. But when you really see the explosiveness this guy has, he puts it all together. There is no Calvin Ridley this season unless something changes there. And if they have any hope of being a relevant franchise in 2022, they need to open up the field for Marcus Mariota. Garrett Wilson is the best way to do that. He had just an absolute beast of a season here at Ohio State, 70 receptions, 1,058 yards, and he can even run a little bit too. He had 4 for 76 and 1 on the ground. So I think it's a great add here for the Atlanta Falcons. And I think Garrett Wilson, he makes a compelling case still, even if he lands here as the 101 rookie wide receiver.
I think that's fair. And you have to remember his quarterback was CJ Stroud, who struggled hard the first half of the season. He was trying to figure out that offense. Once Stroud figured it out, Wilson looked a ton better.
It's a great point. Great point, Nate. I watched a lot of Big Ten football this season, and it seemed like every time I turned it on, it's either Garrett Wilson or Olave making them play down the field.
Right.
So, all right, Nate, I'm coming back to you here now. Seattle, these are Scott's team here. Russell Wilson, you took Scott's boy right from him out to Denver this season.
I did nothing.
Your franchise, long and behold, they did that. So now what does Seattle do here with the 9th pick, Nate?
So I actually didn't think he was going to fall to this 9th pick, but I wrote about how much I want him to land in Seattle for Fantasy Pros. Malik Willis. The dude is kind of like Russell Wilson. He has the same qualities. He's a little bit more like mobile, I suppose, like down the field mobile. He'll run the ball more than Russell Wilson will, but he's got similar arm strength. He's just raw. Sit him behind Drew Lock for a season. Understand that you're going to lose a lot in a really good division. But in 2023, you're going to have a quarterback in Malik Willis that is basically going to pick up where Russ left off and keep going with what Pete Carroll wants to do with that offense anyway.
Well, and Nate, I think this is a solid pick for the Seattle Seahawks here, just because, I mean, how many times have we seen that at the end of the day, the Seattle Seahawks, they want to do what the NFL is moving towards, and that is big body quarterbacks who have a cannon of an arm and are mobile. And I think Malik Willis fits this profile. Scott, any issue with this pick being a Seattle fan?
Yes.
You shouldn't, though. This is the best thing for your franchise.
Hold on.
All right. So,
hold on. I do have, no, I do not want I don't want the Seahawks to go quarterback at 9. I mean, it's not that I hate Malik Willis, but I've been reading up on him, and from some trusted people, it is thought that he has the most to figure out and work on out of all the top level QBs coming out. It's just that he's a dual threat, so he has that appeal. But I would much rather the Seahawks go after a different need, either an offensive lineman, a cornerback, and then honestly, if they could, if Ritter fell to the end of the first, trade back into the first and grab Ritter. I would rather take one of those linchpin other positions, and if they're not going to be good this year, regardless, right? So I would much rather put my cards on a 2023 rookie quarterback. That's what I would rather do. But at the same time, as a fan who hasn't watched his team have a top 10 pick in 10 years, if they pick Malik Willis, I'm going to be excited.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, another pick for the New York Jets here. A lot of people, Drake London is the consensus here at the 110. I know you're not crazy high on Drake London, but what do the Jets do? Are they high on him? Are they going to make the same mistake that they've made time and time again here in the first round drafts?
No, they're not. So the first pick, the Jets went with Thibodeau on the defensive line to shore up that defense. So I'm going to go ahead to the other line of scrimmage, the O-line, and take Charles Cross for Mississippi State. I think Cross didn't allow pressure versus Alabama all of last year. He definitely solidifies that line. He gives the quarterback a much better chance, which is something that Jets quarterbacks don't really have a lot of the past couple of years. So definitely shores up that O-line for them and makes the offense overall better for a long time. So I'm happy that he lets it here. He's definitely one of the last tackles, like the top tier of tackles, I'd say. So I'm happy that he lasted this long.
Yeah, 100%. The Jets get a lot better adding key pieces, both offensive and defense here in the top 10 picks, guys. Let's run through this top 10 one more time just so the listeners know. Trayvon Walker going to Jacksonville at the 101. Aidan Hutchinson to the Detroit Lions at 2. Evan Neal from Alabama, he's going to go off the board at 3 to Houston. Kayvon Thibodeau at 4 to the Jets. Sauce Gardner going into the New York Giants. Carolina is going to take Kenny Pickett. And then the New York Giants, they come back. They get Ike Aquinwa, the offensive tackle out of NC State there. Atlanta, they're going to go Garrett Wilson, add some receivers there. And then Seattle, Malik Willis. And then you just heard Charles Cross to the New York Jets as well. All right, Scott, the pressure is on you now here. Outside the top 10, maybe the Big 10 really in this draft have gone so far. So what do you do here at the 11th pick? Washington, a really disappointing season for them in 2021.
So this is one where, at least, again, according to a lot of the industry mocks, the tendency looks like wide receiver for the Commanders at this pick. But in our specific scenario, Kyle Hamilton falling that far, they don't necessarily need a safety as much as they need a few other positions. But I'd be taking Kyle Hamilton. He's fallen a little bit. A month ago, he was in half the mocks I looked at, he was number 2 overall.
Yeah.
And now he's fallen a little bit. I think people are a little concerned about the injury. But I think at 11, I think he's a top 10 talent. So I think if he's sitting there at 11, the Commanders jump on him.
I love this pick.
I mean, he realistically is one of the top 3 players probably in this draft. So, I mean, it just makes sense. It's like, I think the big issue here, and would you agree with me, Scott, like safety just is not a premier position in the NFL anymore. I mean, we saw the mistakes Seattle made trading so much to get one.
Yeah. I mean, you don't. And I mean, that it shows up in the numbers. There's 1 or 2 safeties that go in the first round.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's a special one. So if I were the Commanders, I'd be ecstatic if he was sitting there at 11.
Yes, sir. Moving on to 12 here now, the Minnesota Vikings on the clock. Just a couple of disappointing seasons for the Vikings here, but there's a new chief in town, guys. A lot of upside for the Minnesota Vikings here in 2022. And I think they're going to add to their defense. They're going to go Derek Stingley Jr., cornerback out of LSU. And I think it just makes sense here. Durante Jones, he is their defensive coordinator. He was also the DC down at LSU in 2019, where Stingley looked so good that year. We haven't seen a lot out of him the last couple of years. He's been injured. He's been banged up. He's underperformed. There's no doubt about that. I think the biggest question with Stingley is, can he be a leader, though? Can he be a leader? Can he be a locker room presence? I think if he goes to Minnesota, he learns under Patrick Peterson, one of the all-time GOAT corners, GOAT leaders in this league. He's going to make a big impact for the Minnesota Vikings, although I don't really see a huge fantasy impact coming from this move.
I mean, even in IDP, I don't know that he's going to get enough traction year one where it's something where you're going to want to really have him around.
Right. But I think it just makes him that much more competitive. I think the Vikings are a dangerous team this year. I would not be surprised. I'm sure we'll do divisional breakdowns later this offseason, guys. But NFC North, man, they could. I mean,
they should probably go with it. I think they should go quarterback with this.
Stop. Kirk Cousins is one of the best QBs in the NFC at this point.
What? I mean, okay.
He's top 6. He's top 6.
Sad but true.
That's sad, not saying a lot.
Right. Sad but true.
All right. Nate, I'm throwing it back to you here for Houston. Coming up here at pick 13. Another pick for Houston after they've been starved of him for the last few seasons, Nate.
Yep. So I think Houston's going to go Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle out of Georgia here. He's an explosive defensive tackle. I had the privilege of getting to talk to John Harris from Texans.com like a week ago. And this is something that the last 2 times I've talked to him, this is something he's hammered on. They're going to go offensive line, which is why I loved Neal pick, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to take Evan Neal if he's there. But then they really need defensive help. They're without Jadeveon Clowney. They traded J.J. Watt. They have nothing on this defense. It's really of any substance, especially on the defensive line, and they need a run stopper. And Jordan Davis is a run stopper.
Love it. Love that pick, man.
And fantasy-wise, like if you're playing in IDP leagues, I might grab this guy. He's probably a 3rd or 4th rounder in a rookie draft, but I'd take him.
Yeah.
I think too, because I think ideally the Texans would get an edge rusher, but I think Jordan Davis at this stage is better than the edge rushers that are left as far as what they need for their defensive line. So I think he's a steal, honestly, at that spot.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to shout out Brad Bolt for setting me up with John Harris, by the way, with his NFL Labs podcast.
Yeah, heck yeah. We appreciate Brad's support here at IBT. Brad's a member of the IBT family. We love the support over there on our Patreon and our Discord that Brad gives us. So appreciate that, Brad. Dan, I want to move to you, though. Baltimore up here at number 14. This is a really low-key compelling pick because Baltimore doesn't pick often inside the top 15. It was a down year in 2021 after an 8-3 start. Dan, where are you going here at pick 14?
So for Baltimore here, I'm going to take Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle. Baltimore gave NFL high 47 sacks last year. Their entire offense is predicated on the run game, and they don't really have much on the offensive line. They dealt Orlando Brown. Villanueva's old. Ronnie Staley's injured a lot of the times, so they could really use an injection of fresh blood there along the line. And Penning can start right away. He can just plug him right in and go from there. So they take advantage of picking a little bit earlier than they're used to and getting a really good tackle prospect.
It makes sense. I mean, what does Baltimore love to do? They love to run the ball with Lamar Jackson and those RBs. And if they're going to do it more efficiently in 2022, Penning, he's gonna add to that. So I love that pick there, Dan.
Thank you.
All right, and then a pick Dan might not.
All right, here we go.
Here we go. You have an opportunity here. Dan's team, the Philadelphia Eagles, are on the board at 15. They've made some mistakes in the past couple first rounds of drafts. What do they do here at pick 15 with some obvious needs? Obvious needs. What are you going to do, Scott?
God.
At number 15, am going with Drake.
No.
Separation is overrated. London.
No.
At 15. I don't think London makes it past Atlanta or the Jets, to be honest.
Mistake.
He's the second best wide receiver in this class after Wilson.
Easy
to me.
Easy.
Yeah.
No,
oh yeah.
Easy.
That.
Oh, get out of here with that. Get out of here with that Olave stuff.
Nope.
I mean, Jameson Williams is number 3, so Olave is you got to keep going. So I just they desperately
out here choosing violence. Holy,
they desperately need another wide receiver, and Drake London.
I want a good one. I don't want Drake London.
He is. I don't understand this. I don't understand this Drake London hatred. I mean,
dude,
there's more to separation than the space between you and the defender when you catch the ball. He's a big-bodied receiver. He's a zone killer. He can use some improvement in man-to-man coverage and press.
Preach, Scott,
for sure.
Preach.
But he's a zone killer. He's a good route runner. He is known as being NFL ready right now with his NFL intelligence. He's got the size. He's got enough speed. He's got enough yak. I think he's a top 10 receiver, and that the Eagles, I think they grab him if he's there. Granted, it is not the best fantasy landing spot for Drake London.
Yeah,
there isn't a better receiver at the line of scrimmage in this draft.
I mean, at the line of scrimmage, if you want to argue that's
he wins
okay.
line of scrimmage, and at point of catch, he wins at point of catch every time.
Okay,
he creates separation.
We will end this conversation, but we can have a whole show on Drake London, honestly. Because
we tried to last night. My internet was busted.
We know it's polarizing. All I'm going to leave you with, Scott, is 46% of this guy's career receptions are within 5 yards. So the ADOT's going to be low there. And also, he's not a huge yak guy. Outside the top 240 in the country in yak, and that's behind all the other top 6 prospects at the position. So I'm a little worried that he has such a low ADOT, but he can't extend plays either. So I think that's my biggest concern. Dan, is that your biggest concern?
Yeah, I want nothing to do with him. I just don't. He's not a good yak guy. His acceleration offline is terrible. No, I don't want him.
He's better with the ball in his hands after the catch than you would think for a man of his size, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's leading the nation in yak. And I mean, it's hard to argue with 6 of 8 games over 130 yards receiving this past year before he got hurt. 4 of 8 games over 160 yards receiving. The dude's he's a monster.
So
Philly be lucky to have him.
No,
Scott, in your world where Philly is lucky to have him,
I don't want.
How do you see this affecting the team? Because I think whatever receiver, if they take a receiver here, it's a boost for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts already a very appealing quarterback here. If you're going late round QB strategy, do you think it boosts him, or do you think it hurts Devonta Smith at all?
No, I think it can only help Jalen Hurts if he's the starter, and I think it can only help Devonta Smith. The whole notion that you bring in this receiver, this other good receivers, that's not the way it works. If the offense gets better, the good receivers get better. So
you pick a receiver
sweet.
next time.
Sweet. So Drake London, wide receiver 1.
All right.
All right, we can move on from Drake London. Dan and I have all offseason to talk about Drake London.
Yes.
All right, Seth, now it's your turn to do Cooter's team.
Yes, so we're gonna go here. Number 16, the New Orleans Saints, and this is a trade. This is one of the picks that they got from Philly, who Philly got from Indy. Hashtag Carson Wentz, love that shit. But guys, I look at New Orleans here, and they either moved up or they moved back into this first round to get that second pick for one of two reasons. Either one, they're trading up to get a QB, which I don't think they necessarily are with the contract they gave Jameis Winston. But I think they're going to surround Winston with talent, and that's going to bring Chris Olave, my wide receiver 2 in this class, from Ohio State down to the Big Easy boys. And I just think this is one of the best all-around wide receivers in this class. He is the best route runner. I don't care what you say. He's the best route runner, the smoothest. He reminds me a little bit of the way he's nitty-gritty over the middle of the field, like a Manny Sanders. I think he is elusive, but I think he is more explosive than Sanders, and I think he can be a Brandon Cooks in the way he can get down the field too. So take Brandon Cooks, take Manny Sanders, have a baby. You get Chris Olave. I think he's going to be an absolute beast here. And Traquan Smith's had his time, man. Marquez Callaway, he's had a couple years. They haven't showed up. Now it's his time. I think he'd be a great complimentary number 2 wide receiver across from Michael Thomas.
I agree. Also, how did you say Winston's first name?
No, I used to always pronounce it correctly. I pronounce it.
Oh, so you're blaming this on me?
Yes, I am. I never even heard it pronounced Jameis until I met Nate. So,
and then you just said it, and I've been saying it right lately.
I apologize in between fam out there. I apologize. I'll try to put a stick of soap in my mouth for that one.
I'll with soap.
I like video.
I like Olave. I have nothing wrong with Olave other than the senior declare thing, but I just like Williams better.
It was a business decision
by one slot.
Decision in my mind. I mean, that was a great class last season. I think it paid off to stay one more year at OSU. They had a shot to win the title as well. Guys, so let's go ahead and move forward here. Nate, the Chargers, they are on the board after a run of wide receivers here. There's been a lot of rumors that Jameson Williams could be a guy the Chargers are targeting here at the 17th pick. They just signed Mike Williams, though. So what are you looking for to build around Justin Herbert, or do you go defense?
So they need offensive line. They have some not glaring needed offensive line, but it's one of the few needs that they really actually have on offense. So getting a first-round talent on the line is important. Zion Johnson out of Boston College, he's the best offensive lineman on the board at this point at 17. I think because of that, they take him.
Okay. And I think that's only going to help Austin Eckler and Jay Herbo.
Exactly.
And, all those boys. And let's be honest, those boys are studs down there. Those boys are studs out in Los Angeles, man. I'm excited to see what they can do. I think this, going to offensive line 2 years in a row in the first round, I think that's powerful. Brandon Staley is setting a message. Let's see if he makes the right decisions on the field, though.
Yep.
All right, Dan, going back to you, man. You do get a Philadelphia Eagles pick here. This one's from New Orleans. What do you do here for Philly? You going back to the wide receiver hole?
No, I'm not. I'm going on the opposite side of the ball. I mean, on defense, we really don't have anyone that's a marquee guy, anyone that really a building block for the future that we can feel comfortable with. So I'm going to go ahead and take Jermaine Johnson, the defensive end of Florida State. Brandon Graham's getting really old. He's like 34. He's coming off a really massive injury. Derek Barnett is just not good at playing football. So I think Jermaine Johnson can come right in, start at defensive end, and hopefully start building the Philly D back up.
Yes, sir. I mean, Fletcher Cox is kind of, those guys have anchored that defense for so long, and I think now's really a change of guard for the Philadelphia defense, and I think it starts here. I think they'd be pretty happy if Johnson fell all the way down here to 18. That seems like a pretty good steal there. Yeah,
I'd be really happy too, honestly. I'd be fine taking him at 15 if he's there, to be honest.
All right. Well, Scott, the final pick from the Philly-New Orleans fallout trade here. They go on the board at 19. What do they do here? They just added my guy, Chris Olave. Do they go back to the offensive side of the ball?
I don't think so. I think, a common thought might be they would go quarterback at one of these two picks. But honestly, I think if they go wide receiver at the first pick, I think they have other They have other problems to solve, and edge rusher is one of those problems. I was really hoping when we were doing this mock that Jermaine Johnson would fall one more pick. So I went with, in my opinion, the best edge rusher left on the board, and that's George Karlaftis out of Purdue. There's kind of a tier break, a little bit of a tier break on edge rusher after George. So that's who I would have them picking at 19.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Jordan, dude, he can't anchor that thing forever. He's done it for so long, Hall of Fame player. So I like the pick here.
Well,
Scott.
I believe in Jameis Winston to be able to lead them for the next.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they just signed Jameis Winston. I mean, he knows that system, and so I don't think they have to take a quarterback in this first round.
All right, fair enough. Another team that might be forced into actually taking quarterback, though, is my Pittsburgh Steelers sitting here at pick 20.
No.
Guys, this was a tough one. This was a really tough one for the kid here. I'm going to be straight up with you guys. I've seen a lot of mock drafts. I mean, a lot of mock drafts out there right now. Some of them do have Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, one of those guys sliding here at 20. I think if one of those guys did fall at 20, it would be an instant, smash that button for Pittsburgh. However, I don't think that as we mocked out, those guys are going a ways before this. I almost thought Desmond Ridder in here. I have been rising on Desmond Ridder quite a bit. I've looked a lot more into him since he seems like a possible, potential starter here for Pittsburgh. However, I think maybe that they'll move up in the second round if they really want him. I think they're going to go Kenyon Green here, offensive guard out of Texas A&M, former Aggie baby. And I just think this comes down to positional need here. It's kind of another tier break type of thing. I think Kenyon Green is the last good interior guard left in this draft, at least at this level. And Kevin Dotson there on the Steelers offensive line. Dude has no business starting for the Steelers, starting for the Falcons, starting for the Lions. This dude should not be a starter in the NFL. They need to address this offensive line if they want to help Najee Harris at all. I mean, you look back at the Steelers' yards per carry last few seasons, it has been awful, whether it's been Harris, whether it's James Conner. If they want to improve that, it starts right here, adding Kenyon Green.
I can't disagree. I mean, we all know that their biggest weakness is offensive line and quarterback last year, Big Ben.
Yeah.
I think that they go Carson Strong, second or third round. Ooh. And I think that's a really good pick for Pittsburgh because I think that his skill set fits. Thanks, Jackson, for asking me to watch rookie film with him last night. There's just something about Carson Strong's skill set that says Pittsburgh to me. And that he's a guy who can sit. No, but he can sit behind Trubs for like 2 seasons. And I think that would be really good for him.
I don't
He'll
want
be NFL ready.
Tribs, bro. I'm good on that.
I think you're going to be surprised at how much you actually want.
I'll take
maybe
Matt
a third.
Corral. I'll take Desmond Ritter.
Carson Strong is the dude for Pittsburgh.
Stop. Okay.
All right, I will stop, and I'm going to move on to the 21st pick for the New England Patriots. Jahan Dotson, wide receiver out of Pennsylvania State University, which somebody lives like minutes from that campus. Look, I love Jahan Dotson. His talent.
I did too.
He's explosive. He knows how to find open space. He's really good off the line. He's probably just like slightly behind Drake London with what he does to the line of scrimmage. But here's the thing. He's a small, slight slot guy. Danny Amendola, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. These are guys that Bill Belichick loved and used effectively. Bill Belichick loves slight slot receivers like Jahan Dotson almost as much as he loves pasty white, slightly chubby quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That he turns into Hall of Famers. I can't. If Jahan Dotson is available, there's no way New England doesn't take him. They don't have a ton of needs. This is something they need, though. They need that explosive slot wide receiver, the guy who's sneaky, the guy who can cut through defenses, who can find his way to get running a lot of slants and a lot of like the short. He's a perfect fit for this offense. they get him, like I might bump Mac Jones like 2 or 3 spots in my dynasty rankings just because of it.
Wow, so you're
which is
bump him
crazy.
from 4 to 2. I'm just kidding.
I have him at 11 right now. But still, the point being, dude, if he's around,
so
in fantasy wise,
I think if they want Dotson that badly, then maybe look at trading back to the 28 spot with Green Bay or something. Like, you don't need to take Dotson at 21.
Belichick doesn't give a shit about that. He took N'Keal Harry at 24. I mean, Belichick might be Bill Belichick might be one of the few GMs in all of football who's like, F draft capital. But I don't care.
That's gonna be a shirt. We're gonna make a shirt out of that. Belichick doesn't give an F about draft capital.
Well, neither does Kyle Shanahan.
24.
Right. There's some of these guys that just don't care, and we get so wrapped up in like, well, why not trade back? Like, but what am I going to do?
I'm just saying that if he thinks he could trade back where Dotson is probably more likely to go, then you get your guy and more picks. You know what I mean? Like, I think there'll be other people that would want to jump up here to take Jamison Williams or Treylon Burks.
Maybe.
They could go not Green Bay because they're right up next at 22. I just think that's just too high for Dotson for me.
I don't think it is. I'm going to be honest. I don't think I know looking at other consensus mock drafts, it is a little higher than we've seen, Scott. Definitely with Treylon Burks still on the board as well. However, Dotson deserves to be in that conversation. And not that Nate sold him short at all, but I mean, this guy can play outside too.
He can play outside.
He really does look like a Deontay Johnson out there. And he made it work with Sean Clifford, guys. Clifford. Atrocious QB play, maybe the worst QB play. Yeah, Dan's saying it all down there, man. I mean, he comes from not a powerhouse offensive team. And I saw this guy in person every home game, so I am a little biased, but I do think
just a little.
I think Jahan Dotson will be the real deal. Although I hate going to the dark side.
I already told you I have Jamison Williams as my wide receiver 3, so obviously that tells why I would rather have him at 21.
All right. Well, Dan, let's go to you here at pick number 22. Green Bay Packers. This is the one from the Las Vegas Raiders in exchange for Davante Adams. What do they do to address either that need on the offensive side of the ball or repair that defense a little bit that lost Zadarius Smith and a couple other key players this offseason?
All right, so if the draft breaks down this way, I think the Packers are going to be ecstatic. They'll take exactly 1.2 seconds to run up this pick. It's going to be Treylon Burks. If Burks is still available at this spot at 22, the Packers are going to take him. 6'3", 225. He's everyone says he's like the Debo-like guy. He fits right in there. They obviously have a huge need at wide receiver because they really have no one there besides Allen Lazard. He had a great game against Texas A&M. So he can run the ball if you need him to, breaks tackles. So, I think they'd be really happy. Aaron Rodgers would be really happy to get him there at 22.
Man, I really hope Dotson would go to Green Bay and I could root for him. But, I think the pick's solid, though. I mean, you're right, Dan. If Treylon Burks falls here and a guy like Chris Olave is already off the board, I think Burks is probably an auto smash for Green Bay. They need help. And I mean, I do have questions about Burks' burst a little bit and his top end speed.
Yeah,
but he profiles as an alpha. And you can't argue that.
Well, and the thing is, he's going to have 1 to 2 seasons of like very minimal usage in Green Bay, where he's sitting behind Allen Lazard.
Oh no,
dude! Devontae Adams didn't crack wide receiver 2 territory until
but they had Jordy Nelson, James Jones. They had some dogs on that team, Nate.
Doesn't matter.
I love Allen Lazard. This dude loves Allen Lazard. Trust me, I'm an Allen Lazard homie.
But it's not about that. There's a reason I love Allen Lazard. I love Allen Lazard because he's familiar with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers does not throw the ball consistently to receivers he doesn't have a body of work with.
But he's going to have to now.
No, he doesn't. He has Allen Lazard.
But he hasn't had a Treylon Burks.
Yeah.
Either.
Yeah, there's no way that
never
Burks
had
No, you're right. He had a Devontae Adams he didn't throw to for 2 seasons.
Yes, that is the way that played out. I just think a little bit too much is being invested, and that's exactly how it's going to go every single time.
Yeah.
I think now that they have Burks, I mean, If
that's fair because
if Adams was there, then yes, I would say Burks would probably be the second fiddle. But I think a little bit too much praise is going Alan Lazard's way these days.
I love Alan Lazard, bro.
Right?
No, you.
I don't have that big of a problem with him. I just don't think because he's familiar with the system supersedes everything else.
And
I think Burks is going to get peppered early if he goes to Green Bay.
I'm going to go do some stat study because I think I can support my argument.
All right, but you're still wrong though.
So
I might be. Who knows?
I would say if Treylon Burks went to Green Bay, he could be in the argument for the rookie wide receiver 1, at least in redraft, 100%. I would be pounding the table for him. Whoever goes to Green Bay, I'm pounding the table for.
But I see Nate's point. I don't even really disagree with Nate's point. I mean, Alan Lazard is probably still going to be the one, even if Burks goes. But Burks at the very worst is going to be 2. Like, there's no way he can go any lower. He's not going to be beaten out by Sammy Watkins or Randall Cobb or whoever. So he's definitely going to get more than.
Well, now MVS is gone. So
Amari Rodgers, baby.
Right. So there's no way that Burks isn't seeing the field either way immediately. So
no, I don't disagree.
Right.
I just don't know that he's like. I like the pick, but I think that you're talking about like if you're drafting him in Dynasty, you're gonna have to be very, very patient. Is all.
No, okay. All right.
Let's move on. Let's
move forward, guys. We got little time and a few picks to still get through here. 23, Scott. Arizona Cardinals, a lot of questions there with Kyler Murray. What do they do at 23?
All right, I'll take us back down to Boringsville. I think Arizona's going to go. I think they're going to go cornerback at this pick. They could go receiver. Jameson Williams would be tempting here, but I'm going with my college, UW Huskies. Trent McDuffie, cornerback out of UW.
Makes the most sense for Arizona, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the third best cornerback in this draft. So I mean, if he's available there at 23, and a lot of the mocks I've seen, he's been long gone by 23. So I'm smashing on Trent McDuffie.
When you have to play against Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf 2 times a year, you need an elite cornerback. They don't have that. Scott, I love that pick, man. I'm going to follow that up here with Dallas at pick number 24. I'm going to go with Tyler Lindenbaum, and I think this is just a smash play for them. He's the center out of Iowa. God, I hate Iowa.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, I noticed that in the show sheet.
Yeah, I just hate Iowa, man. Every time I write Iowa, you have to write sucks afterwards.
I know. I was like, who wrote sucks?
Yeah.
Who cares about Iowa that much?
But guys, I'll be honest here. I mean, this would be huge. This would be huge. They did not properly replace Travis Frederick when he retired a season ago. And I think Tyler Lindenbaum is the right way to go here. This does not only help Dak in the pocket, this also going to help Zeke's fantasy value as well. I'm already smashing Zeke this season as well. I've been going not 0 RB, but RB 0 through the first 2 rounds. Zeke's been my RB 2 or 1, taken in the 3rd or 4th round back end. So I don't know. I think this could be a great move for not only the Cowboys, but their skill players as well. Yeah, man. Tyler Lindenbaum to the moon, Zeke to the moon, baby.
Yeah, when Denver picked Lloyd Cushenberry, people were like, oh, it's not a sexy pick. It's like, no, but it is because it made their offensive line better, which makes their running backs better.
That is sexy. It's a sexy name, Cushenberry.
Cushenberry.
Especially today. Let's go.
All right. So
go ahead.
I'm just gonna keep this non-sexy trend up. I've got Buffalo at 25. Buffalo's taking Andrew Booth out of Clemson. I have it on good authority from one Jeff Bell that they need a cornerback, which I also knew, but name dropping. Because he's my homie. Buffalo is another team. They have very minimal needs. They're probably looking running back at some point in this draft, but we're talking 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Zach Moss and your boy Devin Singletary are serviceable. Obviously, Stephon Diggs, Isaiah Dawson Knox. Now they've got OJ Howard. This is a team that's very good. Their defense is good. Their offense is good. They could use some depth at corner, and they have a 1st-round pick. I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe traded this pick. But if they keep it, it's going to be Andrew Booth.
Is the rationale that they're going to have to face Tyreek Hill more every season, as well as just in the playoffs, they have to stop Jamar Chase, Juju, and that gang over there in Kansas City as well? Is that just really what it comes down to? Is they just have a shot at the end of that playoff game, Nate? Yes,
and they don't have – if they can add depth at corner, that's probably the most important thing they can do in this draft.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say about 70+% of the 35 or whatever mocks I've looked at all at cornerback. Although I will say Buffalo at this pick is the only one I've seen so far that took Breece Hall in a mock.
I think Sean McDermott's too smart. Sean McDermott is too smart to give that money to an RB in the first round.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Dan, let's go to you. Tennessee, 26. What do you got for us?
All right. So in this exercise, I'm just assuming that AJ Brown is still around in Tennessee. Hopefully, he is, unless he gets traded somewhere, whatever. But still, after that, you have Robert Woods and then Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. And I can't believe that this guy is still available here, but I'm going to go ahead and take Jameson Williams.
The steal of the first round right here.
Dude, that shit happens. Justin Jefferson slid too.
Yes, sir.
So, it's a twofold thing. If that guard's against, if AJ Brown does leave, then Jameson Williams can step right in and be that number one. And if he doesn't leave, then you have that he's the best field stretcher in this draft. There's an argument to be made that he could be the number one receiver taken. So the fact that I can get him here at 26 to pair with AJ Brown if he stays is simply incredible. And Ryan Tannehill will be a very happy camper if Williams gets the spot.
And it would help AJ Brown for sure.
Yeah,
a ton.
I don't think he's the best field. This is a conversation again for another day, but he's not the best field stretcher. That's Garrett Wilson, easy, or Chris Olave.
I agree with
Chris
Seth.
Olave is not even close.
But here's the thing: is that Jameson Williams is still good.
Jameson Williams had to run
first
for
round.
Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson to get playing time. That's all I'm saying. He's not as good as
fair.
these guys. Fair. He had to transfer. I'm sorry. That takes some points off for me, but maybe I'm old school.
Joe Burrow had to transfer.
All right, that's a different scenario, Nate.
No, it's not. It's all the same. Scott, you've got 20. You've got 27.
The numbers, man. The senior declare wide receivers. How many top 12 to 24 seasons are they going to have? It's not pretty.
All right,
Scott, give us your 27th pick.
All right, Scott, shove your analytics and take someone at 27.
Not playing Chris Olave and pick.
Shove it.
Never. Okay, at 27, Tampa Bay. I think they also would be looking for an edge rusher here, but they're going to go just with a defensive lineman, Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia. This is another one that I think is somewhat of a steal this late in the first round. Mm-hmm. One of their best defensive players on one of the best defense in the nation. So Tampa Bay, another team that doesn't really have a ton of holes. I really tried to talk myself into Devin Lloyd here, the best linebacker in this class.
I love Devin Lloyd,
but the Tampa Bay, it just wouldn't make sense for them to take a linebacker with their current roster.
DJ White out there, yeah.
I couldn't do it.
I feel like they can turn Lloyd into an edge guy too. Like I feel like you don't think so?
I don't know. They got Shaq B. Over there.
But if they but don't you do having two like top tier? I know about Shaq Barrett. He was a Bronco.
I know, but Devin Lloyd is an
went
inside
to CSU.
linebacker. Devin Lloyd is okay. Sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying
they don't have a lot of needs, but one of those needs is on the D line, not in the linebacking core. So
Dominican Sue's still out there. I think this would make sense.
Sure. Yep.
They haven't signed back Sue yet. So is that kind of like where you see him slotting in right away? Is right there on the DL, Scott?
Yeah, if that's the way it plays out, then yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay. Well, Scott, you didn't take him at 27, but I'm going to take Devin Lloyd then at 28 to the Packers. This one just makes too much sense to me. I know inside linebacker is not a sexy position anymore. It's not, a premier position in the league anymore. Only it seems like garbage franchises pay their inside linebackers, which I don't really know why. I always thought, like, growing up, like, we always had James Farrier and like those guys. So you're always like, these guys like matter. But I don't know. I think Green Bay here, they got their wide receiver in Treylon Burks. I think now Devin Lloyd out of Utah. I mean, let's just be honest. Like I thought Lloyd would go a lot earlier in this draft. Mm-hmm. He does have some holes in his games a little bit. He is a little bit he's a lot bigger than all the other guys. Like Nakobe Dean. We've heard a lot of Nakobe Dean possibly going at this pick. Or as the top inside linebacker. But Devin Lloyd just has the size, man. So I think with the size out of Utah, I'm going to take him for the Packers. They lost to Darius Smith this season. Different players, but they need more presence on that defense, and it starts with Devin Lloyd here.
That's a good pick for Green Bay. It makes the most sense.
Yeah.
So
He's top 15 in a lot of mocks, so
he has
this
been
late. Yeah, that's great
well.
pick.
This is why we're not NFL GMs, apparently.
Not?
Wait, we're not? I thought this was the actual NFL draft. No,
it isn't. That's why.
I'm literally resting my arm in an armchair.
I wouldn't have
armchair GMs here?
I wouldn't have agreed to do this tonight if I had known.
Yeah,
Okay, so I have the 29th pick for Kansas City, which they acquired from San Francisco, who acquired it from Miami.
Here we go.
Dan has already threatened to roast me. Don't care.
Mm-mm.
Kansas City is going to take Sky Moore out of Western Michigan because this guy is the closest thing in this draft to Tyreek Hill. I'm not saying he's Tyreek Hill. I'm not saying he will be Tyreek Hill, but I'm saying he fills that need for speed in this offense and elusiveness. Another guy I wrote about, another guy I did a bunch of film study on. I don't understand why people are scoffing at him going to Kansas City at 29. I've seen him mock to Kansas City at 29 by like 7, 8, 9 different analysts. His skill.
I think the biggest thing here is if Kansas City truly is going to go wide receiver with one of these picks, and we're assuming, these top 6 wide receivers off the board, Christian Watson makes a little more sense to me just because the speed versus, the speed and the size is just incredible. Not a lot of college production, though. Is that your concern, Nate, with Watson? Is just not enough college production compared to Sky Moore?
Well, what's interesting is I've seen 3 mocks where they take Christian Watson at 30. Sky Moore at 29, Christian Watson at 30.
Wow.
Who do they – it is bold. It's bold. It's risky. It's crazy. But this is an offense that is predicated on having talented wide receivers. Well, wide receiver, I guess.
Didn't AB go to Western Michigan, or is that Eastern Michigan?
No, he went to Western.
Central. Was that Western?
Oh, was it Central maybe?
I don't know. Can we
get Kyle? Let's
get Kyle.
Kyle!
Sky Moore is Western Michigan.
Western Michigan.
Yeah, where did AB go? Did AB go?
We established Western Michigan for Sky Moore.
Okay, yeah. I just didn't know where AB went.
He fits the mold. He fits the mold of a guy that Andy Reid would like to use in his offense.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that's important. I think that sometimes we look at talent one way, but GMs and coaches look at it another. And he just seems like an Andy Reid guy.
Okay. Nate, he takes Sky Moore there at 29 for the Kansas City Chiefs. And then back on the clock for the Kansas City Chiefs, Danny boy, what you got for us, Dan?
All right, so I'm going to go to the other side of the ball. I think that a Sky Moore, Christian Watson double dip at receiver would be fun and interesting. But I'm going to go with Nakobe Dean here. I know that there are some size concerns. He's a smaller-ish linebacker coming out, but his range is unparalleled in this class. He's one of the faster linebackers. He has great process and reaction skills. Right tackling, you can use him as a blitzer. I know that Kansas City has a pretty solid linebacking crew, but they can find inventive ways to get Dean into the lineup and definitely help that defense out, especially in the division now where they have a billion weapons to contend with. So
I like that. I like that, Dan. And I think Nakobe Dean could actually be one of the steals of the draft just because he's on such an elite defense with so many big-time players, Trayvon Walker and those boys. I think it's pushing him down a little bit. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The knock on him is if he doesn't have the Davis and Wyatt's in front of him, that he won't be as good. But I just think that's bullshit.
Well, it's similar. It's not as bad as it is with the safety position, but linebacker, it's just not as you just don't see as many first round linebackers. I mean, if you look at this could be a record year for edge rushers in a first round, depending on how things play out. So I also love this pick, by the way.
All right. Well, Nakobe Dean, though, they're going off the board at 30 to Dan. Scott, you're up at 31, man. And Cincinnati, they're on the board. They haven't had a pick this late in the first round in quite some time. Where do they go here, Scott?
1988.
So I'm staying on the defensive side of the ball. Cornerback is one of their holes. I'm going with Kaiir Elam out of Florida. I think I said that right. The reason can be described in 2 words: Eli Apple.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
I
a great pick.
mean, somehow Eli Apple is re-signed for a year, but they need a corner. They're a contender now. Like they're a contender now. So I mean, they a quarterback. We're talking. This is late first round, so it's the sexiness of the picks kind of has dwindled somewhat. But he's best cornerback left on the cornerback board, so that's who they're going to go with.
Yeah, it makes sense. They already kind of paid up big in NFL free agency to have a chance of getting some better offensive linemen in there. I think they'll still do more in rounds 2 and 3 to add to that OL. But I like this pick, getting that elite corner there out of Florida. And let's round it out here, guys, with the Rams. This is kind of another luxury pick. We don't get a lot of picks in the first round for the Rams, who trade so often.
Wait, was there a trade?
What's that?
Was there a trade? Doesn't Detroit have the 32nd pick?
Oh, yes, they do. My apologies. Sorry. I meant to have here Detroit having it.
No, yeah, because Detroit won the Super Bowl. We all know that.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, the Rams can't have this pick, can they? Like, they never have first-round picks. All right, guys. So I'm going to go with Detroit here. I'm going to go Tyler Smith, offensive tackle out of Tulsa. They need a guy on the other side of Penei Sewell here. It's a pretty weak tackle class outside of that top tier. I think the last tackle that went in this mock draft was top 15 or so. But I mean, realistically here, the Lions just need to continue adding building blocks for their future quarterback, whoever that is in 2023, 2024. And they need to do a better job at protecting Jared Goff this season. I mean, he was running for his life a lot of these games, and especially with big time players on the other side of the ball. Specifically in Green Bay, if they're loading up on defense, you got to load up on offensive line here. We got awesome YouTube comment from Jay. Pull that back up real quick. The Rams don't have a first round pick until 2032. That's awesome. That's pretty accurate. So
Kyle, can you check on that?
Yeah, somehow they still have like 10 picks in this draft.
Yeah, how about it?
It doesn't make any sense.
So Tyler Smith, though, Scott, anything on Tyler Smith, man, out of Tulsa? I think he's that next tier. He could be borderline round 2. If he doesn't go here, I think he goes somewhere early round 2.
Yeah, I mean that's where he's been late round 1. He's been consistently late round 1. In the study and in the research I've done, there's a few names that pop in here and there, but aren't consistently showing up. But Tyler Smith, especially lately, has been showing up. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit could go QB here. They could.
Matt Corral here makes sense, man.
I don't hate Matt Corral here, or if Desmond Ritter's still around.
I
don't hate that either.
Around. This would be a pick. I'd be fine with the Seahawks jumping up and grabbing Ritter if he's still there, but I'd also be fine with the Seahawks waiting until pick 40 or 41, whatever they have, and getting Corral.
Well, why? They already have Malik Willis.
Kyle's
the ninth pick.
It's super flex this year.
The NFL wins super flex. I didn't know that.
It's going to be so much fun. So much fun.
Oh, dude, I can't wait.
Audio editor Kyle, he says Rams, they do not have a first-round pick until 2037, actually. So, Dan, a couple years off there. Appreciate the research there.
Way to go,
Kyle.
Dan.
Guys, let's go ahead. This is a great mock draft. This is a lot of fun to do. We've never done an NFL mock draft on this show, so a lot of fun. I know we've all kind of been nerding out the last couple weeks. Next week in Vegas, we actually get to see what plays out. So I'm super pumped to be
You're
there.
actually going to be in Vegas.
I know. Yeah.
Which is super awesome.
If anyone's out there in Vegas, any listeners out there in Vegas over the next weekend, let me know. Let's link up. Let's have a drink. Let's, have a little time on the strip. Let's just appreciate the NFL draft for what it is, man. It's a beautiful time for these young men to really become elite and just professionals in this sport. It's kind of sad when you actually look at the numbers of how many of these guys will be playing in a couple of years in the league. But regardless of that, this is their time to celebrate. This is their time. Go a little crazy. Don't spend your money all in one place. I've been hearing these stories of like ex-NFL players being like, "Oh yeah, as soon as I got my signing bonus, it was gone." I was like, "Oh my god."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, dude, think about it. You're 22 years old. You know nothing of the world. A lot of these players came up like. Most of them didn't grow up wealthy. And then you're handed $5 million and you're like, well, I can't go through $5 million in like 2 weeks, right? Can I? And then they're like, oh shit, I went through $5 million in 2 weeks. I guess buying 7 Lamborghinis will do that, though.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we do have a little more for you tonight before we round it out. Let's go ahead and get into weekly advice.
Weekly advice.
All right, weekly advice, our way of bringing some feel good to round out our show, guys. And we're going to talk about traveling bad stories, traveling advice here. Because, you know, I don't want to get into political discussion, but, you know, a lot of masking guidelines have been dropped. So I think probably more people than that were already are traveling. I've been itching to travel. I haven't really gone anywhere out of the state other than Canton, Ohio, in about 2 years now. So I'm kind of itching to get out a little bit. I'm going to be on a plane next week. Nate, I want to start with you, man. What is your traveling advice? What bad stories do you have to give young Seth here and all our great listeners as we head to our travels this summer?
So honestly, I didn't travel much until I met Jen. As you all know Jen. She kind of like turned my world upside down. It was like, hey, travel. We've done a ton of it. Dude, so here's my biggest advice. I'm going to give you a story. We went to Mexico. It was a great trip. We got home. It was cold. Jen had our 2-year-old.
I do. I know this story.
You know this story. Excuse me. So I'm like, well, it's like a 15-minute shuttle ride. We don't know when our luggage is going to get to the carousel. I'm just going to hop on the shuttle, pick up our car, come back and get you. I get on the shuttle. I get a phone call from Jen. Jackson just puked everywhere, all over in the airport, strapped into his stroller. And I had just left on the shuttle. Like, I'm not going to be back to you for 30 minutes. Oh no.
You were like, oh no. And then you're like,
No, I felt so bad because I knew that my 2-year-old was sick. So I'm feeling awful about that. And then Jen's like in the middle of a super busy airport because no lockdowns had started yet. This was right before everything locked down. So here's a travel tip. Because we actually had 2 occasions. We had a 4-hour delay when we got to our gate. They announced a 4-hour delay the first time we traveled with Jackson. He was 8 months old. He peed out of his diaper. We didn't have backup clothes for him because it was the first time we had traveled with him. Everything was checked. If you are traveling with kids, and Scott, I know you can attest to this, dude, be as prepared as you possibly can. Over-prepare. Super over prepare. We take 3 checked suitcases every time we travel. And that's 2 people who, before we had a kid, we didn't even check a bag. We packed everything we needed into 2 carry-ons and went. Be over prepared. If you have a kid and you're going to travel, have worst case scenario stuff with you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's all.
Also, yeah, I love that. Also, I want to bring up this comment from YouTube viewer Jay. Don't drink the water. Like, is there something about airport water that I don't know about?
He's talking about Mexico.
Mexico water.
Oh, okay. That's
fun fact. Puerto Vallarta's water has been certified cleaner than the majority of United States cities.
I like to see the data on that one. Honestly.
Oh, it's true. They've won international awards for it. Anyway.
Jay also says he can confirm Nate's advice. I love that, Jay. All right. And then Bo says, translated to, quote, don't travel with kids. Also,
no, but Jackson's, we love traveling with Jackson now. Seriously, it's a joy. He's awesome.
Scott, you're up there a little bit isolated kind of in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm sure when you travel, it's either like you're going out into the mountains, going out to camp, or you're like getting on a plane to go the whole way across the country, probably because you're, so far out there. So what advice do you have for us, brother?
So I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction with my kind of funny story from my past. This will make sense in a second, but this is when I was like a 16, 17-year-old kid. my parents were my parents were the ones that were traveling. They were going to the Oregon coast. And I grew up in a household where they didn't want me partying or doing any of that stuff. So they, no going and staying at friends' house with no parents, all that kind of stuff. So I told them when they were gone, I was like, oh, don't worry, I'm staying at my friend Scott's house. And they said, okay, is his parents home? And I said, they sure are. So they went to their trip in the Oregon coast. I did my thing at Scott's house, my friend Scott, whose parents definitely were not there. My parents ran into his parents on the Oregon coast.
No. Oh no!
Like, I should have given up. I should have given up trying to get away with stuff right then and there. Like, what are the odds? So my advice now being a parent, if you are going to travel without your kids and they're of the age where they might party, whatever they tell you they're going to do when you leave, they're lying.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
100%. Yes.
1,000%.
I'd say, but I always was not truthful what I was doing.
No.
Well, nowadays you got doorbell cameras, you got all sorts of ways
That's
that are
true.
inhibiting kids from acting out. But
you can also disable those cameras. Kids are smart, man.
Stop giving the younger viewers.
But anyway, and my parents allowed me to dig myself in the hole. They're like, so how was it at Scott's house? You know what I mean? But the fact that they randomly ran into each other on the Pacific coast in a different state.
Gotta love it. That's an awesome story. That is an awesome story, Scott. Dan, what do you got for us, man? I know you don't have kids, but I'm sure you have a crazy travel story or two for us.
I do. This actually happened a couple of years ago. It was with my fiance, who's then my wife. We were going down to New Orleans for my friend's birthday.
No,
you're right. So we got to the airport. Our flight was scheduled for 12:45. One of my other friends was on a different flight. So it got delayed a couple times, like twice. So we ended up on the same flight as him. And then it got delayed more and more and more until around midnight when they said the plane was coming. And then 10 minutes later, the plane was canceled. So basically, we had stayed in the airport the entire day for nothing. So then we kind of lost our minds a little bit. We decided we were going to be fun, rent a car and drive 19 hours to New Orleans because we weren't going to miss this party. Then somewhere around like the mountains of Pennsylvania, probably around Penn State, but who knows because it was like 3 a.m.
Yes, sir.
We decided that probably wasn't the best idea. So we're looking at flights. We were looking at Washington, Baltimore. We actually found a flight in Pittsburgh that connected to North Carolina to get us down to New Orleans. So we had to drive from probably like the middle of Pennsylvania to Pittsburgh in about 2 hours. So I was driving about 150 down 76.
Oh my God.
To get there on time. We got there. So it ended up being all right in the end. But I think the lesson from that is just patience. The things are always going to go wrong, no matter if you have kids or if not. Nothing ever goes right all the time. The 100% something will always get fucked up. Someone will miss a flight or a bag will get lost or a tire will pop or something like that. So, just take it in stride, just know that going in, just realize, this is your vacation. You're supposed to relax and just, try to roll with the punches.
I love that, man. That's great. The fact that you drove the whole way across PA just to catch another flight that's classic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fastest I ever drove. Easily.
All right, guys. So I'll round you out with a quick story and a little bit of advice from my limited travel experience. It was 2019. I'm a young college kid at this point. Katie is in New York City for the summer doing an internship with a magazine company. And I was like, okay, I want to travel up to see her. I have a crap ton of work to do, though, this weekend. So I bought myself my first Amtrak ticket. I went down to Johnstown, which is very like southern, western PA, hopped on the Amtrak, left my car there, all across PA. It was beautiful. Honestly, a beautiful ride. And went past the Altoona Curve Stadium, went through Philly, New York, end up in New York City. Awesome weekend. If you're ever traveling in the NYC area, I highly, highly recommend that you stop in Astoria. Astoria is a great little nook of the city. That's where we had an awesome time. But the lesson learned here, it's Sunday morning. We slept in a little bit. I had to catch my train maybe by like 11 or so. Plenty of time though. Got up, was pretty much like out of the apartment. I thought sometime around 9:30. And we're like, okay, we have like a lot of ample time left. Like, do you want to stop for breakfast? And I was like, sure, yeah. So we stopped for breakfast, just kind of like a little grab and go place, got a bagel, some OJ, you know. And then we're like, all right, ate the breakfast. We went up to the subway platform. Now, keep in mind, we're the last stop on the subway, New York City subway system. So they, you know, a lot of cars have to come out that way to you know, get to us. And a car comes, and we're about to get on it, and there's a broken window, and they will not let us on it. So that car has to go back, and they have to bring a whole new car, which, you know, 20 minutes. So that kind of put us a little uneasy at first, and we're like, oh crap, here we go. I might miss my train home. I started to get a little nervous, a little sweaty, you know, knees weak, arms heavy, you know, mom spaghetti, that whole good stuff. But we're sitting there, another train comes, and there's like a homeless guy who will like has his whole life there, and like he's kind of being a distraction and not like they won't go because of this homeless guy. I don't know what, I can't remember exactly what he was doing specifically, but they would not go. So moral of the story is I end up missing my train by like a couple minutes, sprinted down past Madison Square Garden to Penn Station, was like, I got there maybe 11:02, train's gone, had to get a whole new train ticket that ended up being a disaster because then I had a connecting bus, got on the wrong bus, just an awful trip back. But moral of the story is like, be there with plenty of time. Like whether you're taking a flight or a train, whatever you're doing, if you're relying on some type of public transportation, be there well before you need to go. Like our biggest thing is like, we should have just got to Manhattan, grab some breakfast in Manhattan, and then, you know, then worried about it. But no, definitely hard lesson learned for the kid there and Katie, but you know, we took it in stride, learned a little bit from it. I will not do that again.
We'll teach you, young Padawan. We'll teach you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to teach our listeners, whether it's fantasy football advice, whether it's feel-good lifestyle advice, guys. We're going to be here all season long. Daniel, Scott, Nathan, I appreciate your guys' insight tonight. I appreciate all the IBT fam out there, the listeners, the viewer. It's been awesome. We appreciate your guys' support throughout this entire offseason. If you want to hit that subscribe bell, whether you're listening on YouTube, any of our audio platforms, it would mean the world to us. Easiest way to support us here at IBT. Check out the website, inbetweenmedia.com, and we'll be back here in 2 weeks. Same place, same time, knuckleheads. Until then, keep it in between. Your destination for both some feel-good lifestyle advice and some fantasy football advice.